This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Shalom Aleichem, good morning. After a little break, it's a great schus, it's a true pleasure to be back here. Welcome to those who came from near and from far. I want to dedicate the shir for the Atzlacha of Ben Zion Ben Dosa, him and his family. In Hashem, we should all have not just a wonderful Chodesh, many great Chodashim and a great year to come in Mitzvot Hashem. So we have some great revelations about Parsha Noach, the Teva, the animals, and other things as well. We'll see how much time we have in Mitzvot Hashem. V'zeh asher ta'aseh oisa, you have to build an ark. The size is 300 amma orech hateva, 300 amma its length, and 50 amma rochba, 50 amma wide, and 30 amma, 30 amma is its height. Says the Malbim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Noach, here you have a remez that if you do it right, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will create a sukas shalom over the entire world. What's the connection? So he explains, he brings from the Tikkuni Azor, when you combine Yud Kei Vav Kei, Shem Havaya, along with Adnus Ado, that creates a sukas shalom. Where do you see a sukas shalom? What is the name of Havaya? That corresponds to HaKadosh Baruch Hu being Mehave u'Mechadish. He allows things to sustain them as we know, and he's Mechadish, he renews them. Adnus is like a master. He supervises. He watches over. So when you have these things put together, you have Sukas Shalom. How? Yud Kei Vav Kei is 26 in Gematria. Adnus, Aleph, Dalet, and Nun, and Yud is 65. 65 and 26, 91. 91 is a Sukkah. But it's not a regular Sukkah. It's a Sukkah Shalom. Sukkah is Samech, Vav, Kaf, Hey is 91. So Adnus and Yud Kei Vav Kei together is a sukkah. What type of a sukkah? It's a sukkah shalom. How? Because that's the measurements of the sukkah. If you have Yud Kei Vav Kei and Adnus together, we'll combine them. So the first letter is Yud. Multiply that by the first letter of Adnus. Yud times Aleph. 10 times 1 is 10. Yud Kei Vav Kei. So Kei, Hey, is the second letter. Times Dalet, Adnus, Aleph, Dalet. Hey is 5, times Dalet is 4, that's 20 plus 10, that's 30, that's 30 amma, it's height. Great. 30 amma tall. Yud times Aleph is 10. So we have 10. You said 5 times 4 is 20. So 10 and 20 together alludes to 30, and 30 is the height of the ark. Right? Good. The third letter in Yud Kei Vav Kei is Vav. Vav is 6. The third letter in Adnus, Ado, and Nun, so 50. 50 times 6? 300. 300 is its length. What do we have left? Yud Kei Vav Kei. The fourth letter is Hey times the Yud. We did that before. We should remember 1 times 10 is usually? 10. Hey times Yud, 5 times 10? Yud Kei Vav Kei. So we're at Hey, the last Hey. And Yud, Hey times 50, we didn't do it before. 5 times Hey times the 10 of the Ado is 50, and that's 50 wide, 50 amma wide, which means you have 380. You have 30 plus 300 plus 50, that's 380, and that's Shalom. You'll say 376 is Shalom. Yeah, but what about with the Koiler? That means when we count the letters themselves, Shalom has 4 letters. So 376 plus the letters themselves at 380, and that's Sukas Shalom, and that's why the Teva had to be specifically this size, Malbim. But why Dafka this size other than Sukas Shalom? Comes the Ostov Tzerebe, and Kedalko Bakoidesh, he does marvelous things with his mathematical brain. And he says, he brings a sefer called Toiras Yosef, who says the Teva had to be this size to allow the size of Klal Yisrael. 600,000 people always represents Klal Yisrael, and therefore the Teva had to be the size. 300 length, 300 amma length, 50 amma wide, 30 amma height. Oh, now you can fit 600,000 people? How? So he says, let's look at Eluvin Memches. Also in Toises, Shabbos, Tzadi Beis Amud Aleph, we learn that the height of a person is 3 amos. The Gemara in Eruvin Nun Gimel Amud Aleph says, when we used to sit and learn Torah by Rabbi Yoshaya, we used to sit 4 people squeezed in one amma. It's possible. If you really enjoy something, they say there's not even enough room for 2 people in a gigantic hall when they can't stand each other. But when they love each other in a tiny little beetle, you remember the beetle, the cars, the small little bit, you can put 50 people there. When there is love, it's like a in Bab Metzia, I think Pei Gimel, Ha'ava doichekes es habasar. When there's love, you can squeeze. So the Gemara says, when we used to learn by Rabbi Yoshaya, we used to learn 4 people in an amma. If a person's height is 3 amma, and 4 people can squeeze in an amma, that means in 1 amma wide, 3 ammas tall, you can fit 4 people. If Klal Yisrael is 600,000 people, so you need 150,000 ammas, 600,000 divided by 4 people, 150 times 3 ammas, because you need to fit 4 people in 1 amma wide and 3 ammas tall. So you need 450 ammas. Let's see the size of the teva. 300 amma long by 50 wide by 30 height is 450,000 square ammas. Mimele, there's room for Klal Yisrael. That's why the teva had to be built in these measurements. Gewaltig. Ve'ata kach lecha mikol ma'achal asher yachel. Take for yourself food. Ve'asafta alecha. Gather for yourself. Ve'haya lachem le'ochla. You'll have what to eat. Is that what it says in the pasuk? I changed just a little, just a drop. Nobody caught me. Baruch Hashem. That means nobody did. Shnai mikra ve'echad targum. Again, ve'ata kach lecha mikol ma'achal asher yachel. I didn't change anything. Take all the food. Ve'asafta alecha. I didn't touch it. Ve'haya lachem le'ochla. And it should be for you. What? Lecha ve'lehem. Superfluous. I did it much shorter. You said the same thing, but I said it in a shorter way. Ink is kind of expensive these days, right? So why did the Torah write ve'haya lecha ve'lehem le'ochla when you can say the same thing ve'haya lachem? Lecha ve'lehem means to you and for them, the animals. So just say lachem. That means you and the animals included. Lecha ve'lehem. Maybe. Where's the kavod? You guys are going to eat, they're going to eat. Where's the kavod? People are hungry.
People and animals the same?
Maybe they're not the same. Why? Because there's a Magen Avraham. In Shulchan Aruch, Siman Kuf, Ayin, Aleph, Seif, Kotan, Aleph, he brings some tiny stuff, Chaf, that we learn. You don't downgrade food of people to give it to the animals. It's a downgrade. Since HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps his entire Torah, if the Magen Avraham tells us that, that means HaKadosh Baruch Hu also does that. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu instructs Noach, make sure to keep that Magen Avraham. And therefore he says to him, don't feed the behema from your food. Lecha, you keep your own food. Velahem, each one gets the food that's appropriate for him. And therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to waste a few more letters in my Torah to make sure people know this Magen Avraham and Siman Kuf, Ayin Aleph, Seif Kotan Aleph, and Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim.
Why wasn't it commanded to take water? Because he was the ark was sealed. There was no water. He also needed to drink.
Who says they're not going to take some drinks? Normally, food includes beverage and food. It doesn't. If it was only drinking, you would have a question. How come they're not commanded to bring food? But kol ma'achal lichoira also includes anything they have to drink. I'm going to fool you again, so pay attention. Mikola be'ema ha'te'oira. All the kosher animals. Tikach lecha. How many? Shiva ish ve'ishtoi. The following pasuk. Gameof hashamayim ha'to'or. Shiva zachar unekeva. Be consistent, right? Everything is cool?
No consistency.
Why? I'm not worried about that. I added a word to the Torah and you didn't pay attention. Again. Before I took off a word, now I added a word. Oh, we forgot something now. There is no word hatahor. When the Torah describes the behema, mikola behema hatehoya, the kosher one, I want you to take 7. The following pasuk talks also about kosher animals, kosher birds. Gameof hashamayim shiva 7. So why don't you say tahor? There's no simanim. There are 3 simanim. You are thinking like the Meshech Chochmah. Says the Meshech Chochma. What are the simanim on oftao? Kosher bird. How do you know that it's kosher? 3 simanim. There's an extra toe. There's a machlokes what that means. Either there's a toe behind and above the other toes, and it's called extra because it's not in the same row as the other toes. Or some say no, it refers to like an elongated toe. So there's in front toe that is longer than the rest. Fine. By the way, both these characteristics can be seen in chicken feet. But there's 2 more simanim. That's an external one. There's 2 more simanim which are internal ones. And that is the zefek, called a crop. And that's a pouch-like organ that stores undigested food until the digestive tract is ready to receive and digest the food. The other one is kulkevano niklaf. In Yiddish, kulkevan, pupik. That's a peelable gizzard, which means it's a gizzard in the digestive tract that is lined with skin and can be peeled by hand. These 2 simanim are internal ones. Noach had no clue. The Torah says, go take the toho bird. And Noach says, I don't know what that's like. So Kodesh Baruch Hu says, don't worry about it. I'm going to send them on their own. The behema that you can see the simanim and that are split hooves, choose a scar, very easy to identify. Noach, you can do it. But the off, since you can't do it, don't worry, says the Kodesh Baruch Hu, I'll take care of it. And therefore says the Meshech Chochma, after they were with Noach for 12 months, and he sustains it for 12 months, and he sees who came 7, what's 7 birds. Now he knows which animal is kosher, which bird is kosher. That's why the Tosha says in Chulin that we learn from Noach what birds are kosher or not. Because Noach now can tell us because he's with them, because he saw which bird came on its own, because the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, when you don't know, don't worry, I'll take care of business. Riddle of the week. We have a few more in Mitzvah Hashem. We know who's inside the teva.
Did he check any of the birds at the end?
Why not? No. That's why 7.
But maybe at the end it should say tahor, or does it matter?
You don't need to. Now that we know only the 7 or the tahorim are inside the teva, no need to. Now we know why it doesn't say tahor when they come in. We know who's inside the teva, right? Noach, his family. We know who's outside the teva. His name is pretty big guy. Og Melech HaBashan. But my question is, who else was hanging on the teva? I'm not talking about animals, not talking about the re'im. I'm talking about a human. I'm not talking about Sichon, because Sichon, I don't know a source that says that he was hanging on the wall of the teva. If you find a source, Im Kabbalah Mekabel, I'll accept it. But if you don't provide a source, burden of proof is on you. I'm sorry?
Who's breathing from the teva?
Who is the re'im, the big animal? But I'm not talking about animals. I'm talking about a human being that's hanging on the wall of the table.
How could Sichon survive otherwise?
Most midrashim say, Nida Daf Samech Aleph, Das Zekenim by Latoisus, and others, look at the Parsha, Nida Samech Aleph, that he was conceived before she came into the teva. He was born in the teva. Sichon was born in the teva. Chiddush. But that,
Who his mother was?
look what happened there. Parsha, Nida Samech Aleph, Chiddush. Maybe we mentioned it a few years ago. But which person was hanging on the wall of the teva? Achidish. We all know him. What's that? All we know, he was sitting there. Great. Other than Noig. Chidish. Uwah. Bereishis Rabba. Leiv. Hey. Lamed Beis. Hey. Med Zuta and Koheles as well. Vav Gimel. Cain. Cain? What is he doing here? Cain was hanging to the wall of the teva until the Mabul came and swept him away. Which means, based on this Medish, Cain is how old? He was born when? The first day. He's hanging until when? 1656 years later. That means he is a pretty big record holder. 1656 years, and then we do Kaddish for Cain. Cain dies in the waters of the Mabul. Not all Midrashim will agree. Some Midrashim have a machlokes with this, but this is a Medrash Bereishis Rabbah and Medrash Zutan Koheles.
Wasn't he killed with a bow and arrow?
What's that?
Wasn't he killed with a bow and arrow when he had the horn on his head?
I said not all Midrashim will agree with this, but we have Midrashim Chalukim.
No, he was killed by Tubal Cain.
Depends who you ask.
Around the table there was no mark.
Around the teva,
Around the day when there wasn't any.
You're sending us to Mahlokas in Zvachim. I think Kuf Tezayin. Whether there's a Mabul in Eretz Yisrael or not. It could be the intensity of the heat of the water, not necessarily the water themselves swept away, the intensity of the waves that it created. Chiddush. Another Chiddush. Noach is in the Teva. What pasuk is he saying from Tehillim that wasn't created yet? Tehillim is going to be written by whom? So that's many years later. Many years later, and yet. Whoever was in the Hoshana Rabbah Shir cannot participate in this question. That was in Hebrew, this is in English. Rabbi Isai, Noach is in the Teva. What pasuk is he saying from Tehillim that Tehillim was not written yet? And yet. You have a source for saying that? I have a source for a different pasuk. If you have a source for that, fine. You have a source? I have many nice psukim I can say from Tehillim. What's that? That's not from Tehillim. That's from Bereshis. A pasuk from Tehillim, Noach is saying while he's in the Teva. Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. 5 points. Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, Perek Chav Gimel says, and Medrash Rabbah as well. Parsha Lamed Daled, Ois Aleph. Noach davened to Kodesh Baruch Hu and said, Ribon kol ha'olami, get me out of this jail. I'm tired. Listen to the language of the Medrash. I'm tired of the smell of the lions, the bears, and the tigers. And when you get me out of here, v'yachtiru lecha hatzadikim keser malchus, Kodesh Baruch Hu, the tzadikim will crown you. Get me out of this masger. And that's what the pasuk says in Tehillim Kuf Mem Beis, Hotzia mi masger nafshi, take me out of this jail. Lehodos es shemecha, I will thank you. Bi yachtiru tzadikim ki sigmol alai. What does it exactly mean? Rashi on the Medrash Rabbah explains. Noach says, what does that mean? Bi yachtiru hatzadikim ki sigmol alai. Meaning, with the nisim and niflaos that you did with me, that tzadikim, Klal Yisrael, will mention it in Musaf and Rosh Hashanah when we say, Vegam es Noach be'ahava zacharta, that refers to this. Comes the Radal, and Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, and says, from the Tanchuma, it looks a little different. And what it means is that tzadikim will say like this, if Noach wasn't the greatest tzaddik, wasn't a complete tzaddik, and yet the Kodesh Baruch Hu performed such miracles for him, and with that we have a new understanding in Birkas HaGoimel. HaGoimel lechayavim toivus. What does it mean lechayavim? Not the tzaddikim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does chasadim. Where's it? It comes from Noach. Noach says, listen, I'm not the biggest tzaddik in the world, and yet you're going to do this chesed with me and get me out forever. Klal Yisrael will mention me and the chesed that you did with me as they say thank you to you for the chasadim that you do with them. Noach was said before, Kodesh Baruch Hu told him, take food. How much? Does Noach know how long he's going to stay in the table? How much food am I still? It's not just for me. It's not just for my family. It's for all the animals in the world. How much food do you take? He wasn't instructed the amount. Does he know how long he's going to be there so he can start calculating how much food he needs to take?
But it wouldn't matter.
What do you mean? Ishtadlus. You bring the food, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make room just like He made room for all the animals. That's up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You do your ishtadlus.
Okay, so
But you can't bring one little tiny grape and figure out, this will fit everybody. Of course it's not. You gotta do your ishtadlus. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of the rest.
it said somewhere that lawyer prepared for a whole year. He didn't rot.
He didn't?
It didn't rot. The food didn't get bad. He spent a year gathering food. So that was connected that year.
Numbers. How long am I staying here? I know what animal, how much they eat. I have a whole chart, I know. But how long am I staying here? Did he know when he enters how long he's going to
He
stay?
filled up the whole floor that had food.
Maybe, and maybe not. You have numbers? How long is it? Noach asks, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how long am I going to stay here? HaKadosh Baruch Hu responds. So what do you do?
Even if he knew it was a year, I mean, which food survived with a year without even they had no refrigerator, no.
Mistama, he had a refrigerator. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was sent into a teva a whole year without a freezer? Mistama, he had a freezer. I don't know, wasn't there? That's the Kenim say he brought all types of different things, except for olive seeds. It cannot survive. It's going to dry up. It's not going to last.
Hashem didn't tell them how big the table was.
How big the teva to fit all the animals? I know. But how long am I staying? If I'm only staying a month, I'm going to bring this amount of food. If I'm staying for a full year or 10 years, I'm not going to stop. How do you start calculating this?
Ishtadlus.
What is the ishtadlus? How much should I bring? That's my question. Good. What is the number? A lot. I don't know how to quantify the numbers. The Abarbanel says, no yachnu. He knew we were going to be here for a year. Okay, fine. But most Mefarshim don't agree with Abarbanel. And if most Mefarshim don't agree with Abarbanel, that means Noach doesn't know. And if doesn't know, he has a problem. So Noach had to use his brain and do some math to figure out how it works. Noach also had to know a little Gemara in order to figure this one out. I mean, Noach knew. Noach learned the whole Torah before it was given. Rashi says it on the passage that says, Kodesh Baruch Hu said to him, take the kosher behemoths. And Noach says, am I supposed to know? So he said, start learning. Start learning. He started learning. Noach knew. Noach learned all the Torah before it was given. Just like the Avos HaKadoshim, and just like we mentioned about Adam HaRishon as well. So, what he did is like this. A cow, after its third year, it's called a zaken. It's pasul akava. It's disqualified. You can't bring an old cow as a korban. Since HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, I want you only to take those animals that cling to their own, and not that one with other species, it must be that those animals are at least 2 years old. Because they only mate, the Gemara says in Bechoiros, after 2 years. Therefore, it can't be that I'm going to be more than a year in the Teva. Because if I will, the cow will be 3 years old. It's going to be disqualified for a korban. So Noach says, the most we're staying here is 1 year. Based on that, he made his calculations, how much food to bring. I think he is from the generation of the Gaon Mevilna, Rabbi Yosef Misletz, I think, if I remember correctly. Noach warns all the people in his generation. I'm telling you, a flood is coming. You're all going to be swept away. It's finished. How many years did he try to warn them? 120 years. Did anybody buy it?
No.
Why didn't they believe him? He looks pretty impressive, right? An old man, long white beard all the way, he's wearing a frock. Nobody buys him. Nobody buys what he has to sell. Why? Why didn't they believe him? Not even one person. Brachos Davav Amud Beis, the Gemara says, whoever has Yiras Shamayim, his words will be heard. Whoever doesn't have Yiras Shamayim, whose words? Not going to be heard. So some say, since Noach wasn't a big believer, he was a small believer. It's Rashi. Rashi says, Miktanei Amana. Noach was a small believer, and he didn't go into the Teva until the water came and pushed him away. So there's a little lack of Yiras Shamayim, your words will not be heard. But there's another understanding, Bederech Tzachus. 2 types of doing Kiruv. One way is, I'm telling you, you're going to go to hell if you don't listen to me. That usually doesn't work. There's another way, the way of Avram Avinu. You come in, come. I'll give you lunch. I'll give you whatever you want, free of charge. Kiruv. The way they do it today. It works. People listen to you. Noach was frightening the people. I'm going to tell you, she's going to have flood. You're going to be killed. Who wants to listen to that? Who wants to listen to that? Listen to your grandson, Avraham Avinu. He's going to teach you how Kiruv is done. Avraham Avinu says, come in, come. Let's talk. You want to eat something? You look hungry. You want to drink something? And Avraham Avinu's approach to Kiruv is totally different. When you frighten the people, most of the time, it's not going to work. So therefore, to Noach, nobody listened. To Avraham Avinu, the language of the Rambam, V'nikbetzu elav alafim u'revavos, multitudes of people. Why? He knows how to do Kiruv. He does Kiruv with embrace, with love, with warmth. That usually is how it works. How do we know this? Because the Gemara in Sanhedrin Kuf Beis says, Gedoyla legima shemekareves es harechoikim. You give somebody what to eat and what to drink, he'll get his heart. That's why you're not allowed to eat or to drink wine with the goyim, because we want to distance ourselves, because we don't want to marry their daughters. Mimeli, you see, Gedoyla legima, when you eat and drink together, it brings the heart close. When you threaten people, usually it doesn't work. There's a taina in Chazal about Noach that he didn't daven for the people in his generation. There's a taina in Chazal. That's why the waters of the Mabul are called Mei Noach. He is charged for that. Where is this in the Torah itself? Where is this alluded to in the Torah? The Torah itself says it. It says that Meir Shapira of Lublin founded the Yomi. Initially is called Ish Tzadik Tamim. Ooh, the greatest accolade. Then after, Ki Oischara Isi Tzadik Lefanai. Tzadik Tamim. Downgrade. Tzadik. Then after the Mabul Vayishaer, what's left? Ach Noach. No more titles around your name. Vayishaer Ach Noach, says Meir Shapira of Lublin. If the only one surviving is you and your family, so all the accolades, all the compliments, all the titles are stripped away. Vayishaer, what's left? Ach Noach. Why? Because you only davened for your family and you tried to save them and you didn't try to save others. Asks Rabbi Schwab and Beis HaShoeva about the question. You're telling me?
The big person, did he stay alive?
What's that?
The big person, did he stay alive?
Og Melech HaBashan? Yeah. That's why he's called the Palit. He survived. The refugee was able to survive the Mabul. Noach, the Torah describes as the Ish Tzadik Tamim. The Torah testifies. But the first thing that he does when he comes out of the Teva, let me plant a vineyard. We would think the first thing that he would do is run to the yeshiva and sit and learn. Say Te'ilim, say Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, say something, Korban Toida. No. Plant a vineyard. Then gets drunk, takes off all his clothes, rolls naked in the tent. What happened to that Ish Tzadik? So much so that the Torah now calls him, instead of Ish Tzadik Tamim, Isha Adama. You're on such a lofty level, Ish Tzadik Tamim. And now you downgraded to Isha Adama? What happened to him? And don't tell me that after this is done, so now we look at him, Noach. He now prophesied about what's going to happen to Cham and Yefes. So he wasn't demoted. In other words, he's still a great person. So what's going on here? You're called Isha Adama, that means you're connected to the ground, to the Artzius. But you can have Nevuah? You're rolling naked? Some kind of a dichotomy here? Says Reb Schwab. Noach felt after the Mabul that the world reached its rectification. Now we go back to how the world used to be at the time of Adam HaRishon before the sin. Adam HaRishon had a nice suit wearing? No, he was naked. Noach figured the world reached that level. That's it, we're going back. System restored. But the sin of Adam HaRishon was still not rectified. The world was rectified. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu starts anew. So there's no more world as we know it. So we go back to where it was before. Before everybody walks around naked. But Adam HaRishon's sin still has to be fixed. And that is how? What was the sin? The opinion of Reb Meir in Brachos Daf Mem. What did he drink? Wine! Oh, so I'm going to drink wine. I'm going to rectify it. That's why he calls himself Isha Adama. Adama like Adam. That came from the Adama. I'm on the same level now. The world is fixed, and I need to fix Adam HaRishon. Therefore, that was the mistake. He figured after all bad was extinguished from the world, I can now come and fix it. That was his mistake. But he wasn't, not because I want to have a party and get drunk, chas v'sholom. He was trying to rectify Adam HaRishon, but that was his mistake.
How was drinking the same drink rectifying?
When you drink l'shem shamayim, you rectify the drinking done bechet, in the sin. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told you not to drink, and he drank. I'm going to come and drink l'shem shamayim. In order to do that, I need some wine. So I need to plant a vineyard.
So the prophet said that he drank the grapes and he didn't want to have any water.
Soon we'll get there.
That's a good proof that the Exodus was great.
If you look at this interpretation, correct. But there's other interpretations. Ben Ishchai is the easiest. There are 4 opinions. In the Gemara, there are 3 opinions. Either Geffen, or Chita, or Te'ena. In the Medrash, it says Esrog. There are 4 opinions. So what was it? Comes the Ben Ishchai and says it was actually a special tree that had the flavors of all 4 species. So nobody's wrong. And that fits very well what the Zohar says, that in Divrei Agada, there is no machlokes. In Divrei Halacha, I can say kosher and you say treif. Lechatchila, even b'diavad pasul. Tameh, tahor. But in different Agada, it's just different angles of the same thing. They complete each other. They made it, all four opinions complete each other. The word Adam, we just mentioned, Adam. We find this word many, many times. Parshas Bereshis, I think 42 times. Parshas Noach, 9 times. More than 100 times in the Torah, we find this word Adam. We know what Adam means. Normally, Adam refers to a man, or to a man and woman together, to a Jew, or even to a Goy. The Tosfos in Yevamos, Samech Aleph say, Adam is a Yid. Ha-Adam is a Goy. Question of the day. Can it be that the word Adam refers only to a woman? It can be a man, it can be a man and woman together. It can be a Goy, it can be a Yid. Can it be Adam referring only to a woman? You're going to meet this word throughout. We know this word. Can it be it refers in the Torah only to a woman? You want a clue? Parsha Shavua! Oh, maybe that's the reason we're asking it now. Shoifech dam ha'adam ba'adam. One who spills the blood of a person in a person. Who's the person inside a person? An embryo. Torah is talking about killing embryos. Gemara in Sanhedrin Nun Zayin Amud Beis interprets this pasuk to say, don't kill embryos. Shoifech dam ha'adam, who is found ba'adam. Who is this Adam? A woman. And according to that, 50% of the first Adam is also a woman. Shoifech dam ha'adam, if you spill the blood of an embryo, that embryo may be actually a little girl. So that's 50% of the time. Shoifech dam ha'adam, first Adam in this pasuk, 50% girls, 50% boys. Ba'adam, that refers to the mother. That's only a woman. The word Adam can also refer only to a woman. Where do we learn Sheva Mitzvos Bnei Noach? Our Parsha Noach. Sheva Mitzvos Bnei Noach. Where do we learn it from? Yosef's brother. So he should be called Sheva Mitzvos Bnei Yosef. Sheva Mitzvos Bnei Noach we're calling them. So it must be before the time of Yosef. Where do we learn this whole idea that we're all familiar with? Sheva Mitzvos Bnei Noach. Aboisem? Anyone? What's that? Not Halacha, not Moshe, not Sinai. The Torah Kedosha last week. Vayetzav Hashem Elokim ala Adam leimo. The Gemara darshans. Sanhedrin Nun Vav Amud Beis. It breaks up this pasuk, and every word refers to a different mitzvah. From here is the source of 7 mitzvahs Bnei Noach. What's the question? What's the question I want to ask you? Sheva mitzvahs Adam Harishon. Why are you calling it Sheva mitzvahs Bnei Noach? Last week, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Le Adam, I'm talking to you, Adam Harishon. And we're saying, no, we're going to ignore Adam. Sheva mitzvahs Bnei Noach. Why? Why are you skipping him? Not nice. Adam Harishon didn't.
Vegetarian.
It's other descendants.
You have something against Adam Harishon?
He's vegetarian.
And if he's vegetarian, so he can't keep Sheva mitzvahs Bnei Noach?
He kept Ever Minachai, but without being in food. And he couldn't.
Ever Minachai is a negative one. Just be passive. Don't do it. What's the problem to keep it? As long as you don't eat.
He kept,
What's the problem? He doesn't have to shecht.
that was given to
Oh, now we're getting closer. We have a few answers. Adam was commanded lichoira 8 mitzvahs, not 7. He has the new mitzvah down called don't eat from Etzadas. That doesn't apply to everybody else later on generations. That only applies to Adam Harishon, and therefore we can't call it Sheva mitzvahs Bnei Noach. It's Sheva mitzvahs Adam Harishon. I'm sorry, 8 mitzvahs Adam Harishon, not 7. Mimele, we're keeping the 7 of Noach for generations to Noach. That's what Chidushei Hageoinim al Ein Iyun Yaakov say in over there. Sanhedrin Nun Vav Amud Beis. Iyun Yaakov himself, 2 answers. He says, we said before in Yevamos Samech Aleph, Atem kuim Adam, velo umosa oilam kuim Adam. Right? We are called Adam, not umosa. So Tosfos says Ha-Adam, it refers to going, but Adam is us. If we would call him Sheva Mitzvos Adam, that wouldn't be correct. Sheva Mitzvos were giving to them, not to us. Mimeli, you can't call it Sheva Mitzvos Adam, because Adam is us. We have 613. So we're limited technically to call it Sheva Mitzvos Bnei Noach and not Adam Rishon. Fine.
Bnei Adam. If we said Adam is non-Jews.
But we want to call it Sheva Mitzvos Adam Harishon because he's the first one to be commanded on it. Says Iyun Yaakov, you can't. Iyun Yaakov offers another reason. He says, you know why they call Mitzvos Bnei Noach? Because it says Noach Matzachen. It was a special chesed between him and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Really, they, all of them, shouldn't be here. It's only mitzad chesed, which is not the case with Israel. Israel have Torah and they have mitzvahs at 613. We should be here. Them, it's only mitzad matzachein. Mimen is dependent on Noach, and therefore they're called Sheva Mitzvos Bnei Noach. Yad Yitzchak says, based on what the Rambam says, similar to what you said, Adam HaRishon did not get 7 mitzvahs. He got 6 mitzvahs. When Noach comes out of the teva, he gets a new mitzvah, Eiver Min HaChai. So now they're complete Sheva Mitzvahs Bnei Noach, and that's why he called Sheva Mitzvahs Bnei Noach and not Sheva Mitzvahs Adam HaRishon. But maybe another understanding. Noach, in the Zohar HaKodesh, Daf Lamed Ches Amud Beis, a story. The Medrash says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Me'ayin haya l'Shem ben Noach Torah. We know Shem sat and learned. He was in yeshiva and sitting and learned. Where exactly did he have Torah from? Torah was not given. Where did he get it from? Ela, Adam HaRishon yada Torah. And we know Adam HaRishon knew Torah because the pasuk says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put him in the garden, le'ovda u'le'shoimra. And the Zohar HaKodesh says, what do you mean? HaKadosh Baruch Hu put him in the garden to work the land and to guard it. Guard it from whom? Are there ganavim in the world? L'shomra! Be careful, nobody comes and steals. There's no people around. Ela le'ovda elu mitzvos ese. U'le'shomra mitzvos lo yisase. Le'ovda refers to the positive commandments. L'shomra means the negative commandments. Adam HaRishon kept the entire Torah. So he had Torah. And he left it beKabbalah l'shes benoi. He gave it to his son Shes. And later it came to the hands of Chanoch. Until it came to Shem. And Shem used to learn Torah all the time. So Rabbi Yossi says in the Zohar, wait a second. If the Torah wasn't best Medrash of Shem, so why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to command Bnei Noach, those 7 mitzvahs, Bnei Noach, they're already listed in the Torah. Bnei Noach saw, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded Adam HaRishon, how the Gemara broke up all that words in the Pasuk to refer to 7 mitzvahs Bnei Noach. So why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to command them again on 7 mitzvahs Bnei Noach? Ela Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, when the Mabul came, and they all came to the Teva, because of their sorrow, Torah was forgotten from them. Until HaKadosh Baruch Hu came and was mechadesh these 7 mitzvahs Bnei Noach, they were already in the world. But now, since he was renewing them and giving them to Noach, they are called Sheva Mitzvos Bnei Noach.
Who says that?
Ma'adan Yashir.
One says 6 because we lost one. There's a problem with the one that was given to Adam HaRishon not to eat. He said it was 8.
That's based on the first answer. Right. That doesn't work with the third answer. Riddle. Mitzvah 7, 613. Everybody is chayiv in something, right? Can it be a person, not a slave, a free person, healthy, strong, willing, and able, no nadarim, no pikuach nefesh, exempt from all mitzvahs? Not 613, not 7, not 3, nothing. A person who is not chayiv in any mitzvah. An adult, healthy. Oinen. What about all the negative mitzvahs? He's not chayav. An oinen can eat chazir. An oinen has to refrain from doing positive mitzvahs. I'm saying a person that from the 613 or the 7, 0 apply to him. A person who's alive and awake, I said, ready, willing, and able. That means he must be awake. He says, okay, what should I do? No, nothing. 613, give me something. Nope. No need. A mamzer is able to eat chazir. A mamzer that's to sit in the sukkah. We said a few weeks ago, I'm not sure if I brought it here. It's a machlokes, certain mitzvahs if a mamzer has to do. For example, can a mamzer write a sefer Torah? Okay, machlokes, other mitzvahs as well. But out of 613, he has plenty to choose from.
Not talking about the
A
Jew.
mamzer is not chayav in Talmud Torah. Not chayav to daven every morning.
We're not talking about the Jew here.
About what?
Are we talking about the Jew or not?
A human being. 2 legs, 2 ears, 2 eyes. And yet, I'm sorry? Mal velo taval, or taval velo mal, so he's still a goy. A goy? 7 mitzvahs Bnei Noach. Niskadish miktzat kedushas Yisrael. The poskim say, a person like that, who did milah, but no tvila, or tvila without milah, he has some kind of kedusha. So maybe he has chayav more than 7. 7 for sure is chayav. You want to upgrade him to give him an 8, 8.5, give him something, fine. But there's a whole dispute. There was a whole Maisa in Yerushalayim 100 and something years ago, 120, 30 years ago, with a person like that. Came Shabbos, did Milah but without Tvila yet, and he wanted to keep Shabbos. Normally a goy is not allowed to keep Shabbos, and a person on the way to become a ger. He breaks Shabbos. can do a derabanan, beshinu, he'll do something. He can do everything if he wants. But if he wants to keep a Shabbos, we force him to do something. But a person like that, is he chayav or not? There was a whole big dispute in Yerushalayim, Beis Chaim Zonenfeld and many others disagree. And the whole big dispute, maybe we'll speak about that. But he's chayav in 7 mitzvahs for sure.
Adam Rishon.
What about Adam Rishon? A person today.
Before he was
A person today.
on the moon.
Ready, willing, and able, healthy, strong. No pikuach nefesh, no nedarim. What's that?
On the moon. On the Levana.
On the moon, he can't eat chazir. Some opinions, strange opinions, maintain that a person on the moon is not chayav and time-dependent mitzvahs. Because there is no time there, it's different than here. Fine. But you can eat chazir when you're on the moon? Not a shoite. Pikeach. Ready, willing, and able. No pikuach nefesh, no nedarim. Free man. Free. A katan. 42 years old, is an adult. A goyim is not a person. He looks like one. Let's answer the question by asking another question that will prove that I'm Jewish. Right? Bnos Noach, also chayav mitzvahs? Bnei Noach, males, chayav in 7 mitzvahs. What about women? Goyish women, chayav mitzvahs? Pashut, right? Let's see if it's so pashut. ויצב השם אלוקים על האדם לאמור, מכל עץ הגן תאכל. Who is he talking to? What was the word? ויצב השם אלוקים on whom? על האדם. על האדם. הקדוש ברוך הוא commands the man. תאכל, you shall eat. ומעץ הדעת טוב ורע? לא תאכל, who? You. He's only talking to the man. Later, Adam sins, everybody sins. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, Eloisha Amar, you're going to get it. How about Tzvoinech? He gives her curses. Asks the Chizkuni. Asks the Toises on the Torah. What did she do wrong? She wasn't commanded. In fact, she wasn't even created yet. You never commanded her. Why are you punishing her? Ashayla, the Toises on the Torah and the Chizkuni. Shalav the Marsha in Soita Daf Tes Amud Aleph. The Chizkuni and the Tois Al Torah say. The Pasuk says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded Al Ha'adam. Where is Chava created from? She's part of him. She is from his rib. She is from him. Mimele, that includes. That's a new understanding in Ishto Kegufo. A new Chidush what Ishto Kegufo literally. Ishto Kegufo. Mimele Chava was commanded. The Maharsha says as well, if the commandment was to eat from Etz Hadat was only for him, don't eat from this, don't eat from this. So why was he punished? Because she is part of him, which means all other women who are not a part of their husbands, especially if they don't have one, a widow, lady who's divorced, a single girl, and even anyone who is married, she's not taken from him. She decides to marry him, but she's not part of him. So all Goyish women, lichayra, are not chayav in mitzvahs. Mind-boggling concept. Shalos Etshuvas Mahariya, Yoredei Siman Aleph, writes, women of Bnei Noach are chayav in Sheva mitzvahs. Why? Because the pasuk here that we read says, Vayetzav Hashem es Adam leimor. What does it mean leimor? To say to whom? To say to whom? No one's around. Meaning, it must be to say to others. If the only one that he can say it to is Chava, that means women should be included in this as well. Many other Sfarim say this as well. Sofas Machos, Shalos Yaakov. Some have a doubt. Yeshvev HaSoiver is not so sure about that. Shalos Shuvas Beis Sha'arim in Yoredea Reish Chavzan writes, a woman of a ben Noach is not Metzuve an Eshes Ish. Yad Chanoch in Simin Samich, Yad HaMelech, Chelek Aleph Yesodei HaTorah, Perek Tes Saloch Aleph, right? The women of Noach are not Metzuve in Sheva Mitzvos Bnei Noach. The Margali Sayam in Samid Munches says, how is it possible? Not Mistaber. The Tzlach says, only in Yisrael we say a concept in Brachos Chaf Aleph Amud Beis. Hishva Akas of Ish leishta. When you say to the man, don't eat chazir, you're talking to the woman. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mashve, ish ve'isha. But that we only say in Yisrael, not in Bnei Noach. But on all these achronim, we have to ask from a Gemara in Sanhedrin Nun Zayin Amud Beis. The Gemara itself asks, Ela me'ata bas Noach shezinta. If a bas Noach wasn't loyal to her husband, lo tehareg, will she be killed? Of course she will. You see lehedya that Abbas Noach, at least an immorality is commanded. So there's no difference to separate immorality from all the other 6. Lichorah she's mitzvah. The Meiri writes lehedya sonedi nun zayin. All that we said on Ben Noach, who is commanded on it, women are included, and there is no chiluk between men and women. According to the Meiri, this doesn't even start. The Chizkuni answers in a different way. You know why Chava was cursed? Why was she punished? Because she did something very wrong. She said to the Nachash something that never happened. Do you know HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded us, me and my husband, not to eat? Lo tochlu mimenu. You guys, lo tochlu. She said to the Nachash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu spoke to us. Excuse me? HaKadosh Baruch Hu never said that. Because of that, she was punished. You put the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he never said that, sorry. So the Chizkuni says that's why he was punished. But Lemaise, the answer to the question that we started, can it be a person who's not chayv in mitzvahs? Yes, according to some opinions that we quoted. If, according to all, Bnois Noach will not be included in Sheva mitzvahs de Noach, and of course not in the 613, and they are exempt from everything. We don't pass in halacha lemaise like this, but there is such opinions as we brought. Since we're speaking about Sheva mitzvahs bnei Noach, from what age is a ben Noach mechuyav in Sheva mitzvahs bnei Noach? Does he have a bar mitzvah? You familiar with a bar mitzvah to a ben Noach? Oh, now you're chayav in Sheva mitzvahs bnei Noach. Not familiar. Never attended one. Hopefully I won't. Mitzvah Shem in the future. From what point does it kick in? A year old, 2 years old, 5 years old, 14, 72. When does it stop being a katan? What's that?
When his nether is considered a nether.
So a goy is chayav in a dorim. I'm talking about a goy. A ben Noach. When does his 7 mitzvahs kick in? Why? What's the connection to the Nedarim that belong to us?
Because it's a connection. It's a time when he's considered mature, when his words make.
And if he decides I'm never going to do any Nedarim, so he's not chayv in the Sheva mitzvahs bnei Noach? When does he stop being a katan? Is the question.
The law says 18, so maybe this is a bit of Noah.
Who says 18?
The law is 18.
The law in what country? In other countries, it's going to be 19 or 21, 4, 6. Some countries they send him to work very early. Nasata dvarecha l'shiurin, if that's the case.
Is it possible that we could say it's Aquaphobia that he's not Jewish, since we have 12 and 13, just without getting a neshama, but then we don't. We follow the same age.
You're going to have a problem with the Rambam. Why? The Rosh writes in Klal Tet Zayin, the idea that by us, Ben 13 is chayav b'mitzvahs is shiurin halacha leMoshe Messina. That's part of what we say. All the shiurin are halacha leMoshe Messina. If what you're saying is true, we're going to have a problem with the Rambam, because the Rambam says all the shiurin were given only to Klal Yisrael. So it can't be that at the age of 13 is chayav mitzvahs, because then he becomes a Jew. All the shiurin only give to Klal Yisrael. How does the Rambam know this? Because it says in Parshas Vayishlach that they killed Vayagu kol Zachar, the Estapam, and the little kids, they didn't kill. What did they do to them? Shavu. They took them into captivity. They didn't kill them. They didn't punish them. Why they didn't punish them? Because they're not chayav mitzvahs. So it can't be that at the age of 13 it kicks in unless you provide another source. And that's what the Shal Shuvas Maharia says. So he says, it can't be that Ben Noach, a katan, will be chayav mitzvahs even when he's 1 day old, because based on this we have no reason to exempt him. It can't be. Because when he's 1 day old and 5 years old, he's an oines. I don't know what they want from me. Oines, Rachmana Patre, we say also to goyim. Mimele, and is as a katan, I still don't have an answer when katan ends, but as a katan, it can't be that it's chayav in mitzvahs. Even though, technically speaking, he cannot be like a Jew that only starts being obligated in mitzvahs at the age of 13. But oines Rachmana Patre, we do say, applies to goyim as well. Shal Shuvas Shol Umesh said the same thing. Shal Shuvas the Maharia, the Chassam Sofer, ve'amin Chas Chinuch, and they say that when a goyish kid becomes a bardas, each kid is different. When he understands things, like we say gil chinuch bayas, it's not a specific number. Some kids it's 5, some kids it's 6 or 7, depends. Hakol lefi churpei. You see how much brain he has. Once he understands things, he's chayv more mitzvahs. So some goyish kids it could be at the age of 4, it's brilliant, and some it could be 8 or 10, maybe a little later, 12, don't know. Chemdas Yisrael is a big chiddush. He says even a goy at the age of 13. Chiddush. Asks the Shal Shuvas Tshuva Me'ava and the Minchas Chinuch. In Maseches Nazir, and this applies to what you said, according to one Mande Amar, there is an opinion that just like in Yisrael, there is the status of a mufla samuch leish, which means from the age of 12, when a Jewish kid makes a neder, we test him. Do you understand what you did now? Do you understand what it means, what implications? You know what a neder is? If he does understand, he is chayv to keep the neder. By the way, he's still not punished if he doesn't, because he's under the age of 13, but he's chayv to keep the neder. There is an opinion in Nazir that just like we say this by a Jewish kid, we say the same thing by a Goyish kid. If that's the case, a Bei Noach will be chayiv in mitzvahs when he reaches das, when he understands what he does. But if that's the case, how is it possible to apply this? We say 1 year before, by a Jew is the age of 12 before he is chayiv mitzvahs, or for a girl, the age of 11 before she's chayiv in mitzvahs at the age of 12. But how are you going to know 1 year before the goy got das? Oh, now it kicks in. How are you going to know? That in 1 year from now, you're going to have das? But we have to understand how that works. The Chassam Sofer explains, when the Bei Noach is obligated in mitzvahs, that's when he gets das. It's on all their dinim, which is not the case of nedarim. Nedarim, we learn it from the words ish in the Torah, a special limud to include, according to that opinion in Nazir, goyim in nedarim, that it's the same like us, but all other things, no. When he gets das, then it kicks in, not a year before and not a year after. The Chelkas Yoav, before all we said now until now is not a big chiddush for you, hang on to your seat.
I just thought on the answer. Moshe, you just say simanim. Hashem made a sign when you mature. Simanim.
But that's part of the shiurim which were given only to Klal Yisrael. And the Rambam says shiurim halacha leMoshe Misinai only to Klal Yisrael. Simanim is halacha leMoshe Misinai. That can't apply to a goy. Comes the Chelkas Yoav. That's a lot of weight. In Siman Aleph, and he writes, a goy that reached the level of das, and he is not 13, he's 11. Now it kicks in, right? He's chayav in 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. But at the age of 11 and a half, he converts. Now those 7 mitzvahs are uprooted from him, and he becomes just like a Jewish kid who is exempt from all mitzvahs. Strange thing. You're chayav in mitzvahs, we can ask this as a riddle. How can it be that a person is chayav in some mitzvahs, and later on he's not chayav? We thought it's the opposite. You're chayav in nothing, and then you're chayav in something. According to him, you're chayav in 7, and then you're chayav in nothing. Which means, a stranger situation. It could be a case that a person is chayav in 7 mitzvahs, then he's exempt. But then he can be chayav in 613 mitzvahs. You understand how? He was chayav in 7 as a goy. He converted, and now he is exempt from all mitzvahs. A half a year later, he says, "But mitzvah," and now he's chayav in 613. The strangest thing. If that is not a big enough a chiddush, comes the Nachal Yitzchak. Again, heavyweight, Choshen Mishpat, Siman Vav, and says, according to his opinion, even in Israel, Katan is chayav in 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. It can't be that a goy is chayav in something that you're not chayav. So he says, all little kids, Jewish kids, are chayav in 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach to be at least like the goy. A chiddush from the land of chidushim. Yeah, but before that, oines. Onesach malapatre, we also say about Jews. I think in previous years we brought different ideas. Why we say lechaim when we drink wine. You don't normally see people drinking apple juice or tomato juice and saying lechaim. Not so common. Drink wine. Everybody says lechaim. Why? So we brought das Zekeri Bibala Toises and Vayikra that bring a few answers. Sefer HaChaim, the brother of the Maharal, he says, look at what happened last time people drank wine. That was the Shvatim. The Shvatim drank wine. What happened after that? They sold their brother. Chet HaEgel. What did it come about? Because they were partying. They ate and they drank, and we know the rest of the story. And he says, just look, it's a practical thing. When people drink, they start fighting. Mimele, we ask that this drinking should be lechaim, the life, and not chalila, for the opposite. Fine. When was wine invented? Noach. Who told you? Did you see a bottle made by Noach? And that's the first bottle you ever saw with such a sticker?
Never appeared in the Torah before that.
Who says? Also, oranges don't appear in the Torah. So oranges were never invented? Let's see. Why does Noach plant a vineyard dafka now? He comes at a table. Oh, it's time to plant a vineyard. Rabbi say you're not going to believe what I'm going to say now. You're not going to believe it. Radak and Abarbanel. You don't have bigger heavyweights than that. Says the Radak. Until the time of Noach, people used to eat grapes like you eat apple. It's a fruit. They never drank wine. They had a lot of grapes around and they ate them as fruits. But they didn't have a vineyard, rows after rows after rows of grapes. Noach is the first one who did it. He came out of the Teva and he planted a vineyard, which means a lot of grapes together, rows and rows. Why? Says the Abar Banel. And he says again, similar to what the Radak says, but he expands. Before Noach, they only ate grapes as fruits until Noach came around and came out of the Teva. I'm reading to you the Hebrew because you're not going to believe if I just say it in English. Ulai! Kasher katz bechayav. He couldn't stand life anymore. Mipnei mei hamabul, because of the water. He saw the devastating power, the lethal power of water. Bikesh la'asos yain lishtos mimeno. You know what? I don't want to ever drink water again. I want a new beverage. And therefore he created wine. Why did he do this? Kedei shelo yishte od mayim velo yireh oisam le'olam. I don't want to drink water ever again, and I don't want to see water ever again. Could be it's the first case of aquaphobia in the world. Noach had a trauma from water. I saw what water does. When Rosh Hashanah, when we daven, mi b'mayim, he said it to all the kavanos in the world. He knew what water does. I don't want to see it ever again, and therefore he plants a vineyard.
So the only kasha is when you squeeze grapes, you get grape juice. To get the wine, it's a whole long...
Not a kasha. Not a kasha. The Medrash says the day that he planted, it grew. So you have a kasha, how he speed up the process? Not a problem. No. There's an opinion in Yerushalmi, in Eruvin, Perek Gimel Halach Aleph, Amar Rab Levi, Mayim hemin klala. Water is a type of a curse. Noach understands it very well. And when Noach saw the klala and the kalkala, the damage, the harm that water can bring about, the curse, says, I'm staying away from that. But based on this Yerushalmi, we have a new question. Reb Levi says, Mayim is a min klala. How is this possible? There's a Mishnah in Brachos, Perek Gimel, Perek Vav, Mishnah Gimel. Omar Rab Yehuda, Ein mevarchim ala klala. When you want to drink water, you love water, you enjoy it. You're thirsty. Do you say bracha? That's the only time you say bracha, when you enjoy it or you're thirsty. How is it possible? Reb Yehuda teaches us a rule. Ein mevarchim ala klala. What is Reb Levi going to do with Reb Yehuda? Reb Levi says water is a min klala. You're not allowed to say bracha. So you want to tell me Reb Levi never said a shakol? Maybe Reb Levi didn't like water. But Reb Levi will instruct other people who do like water and enjoy it, and they're thirsty, to apply the rule that we learned from Reb Yehuda. So some explain the different types of water. There is water of a klala, like the water of the mabul, but there's other water. The water that you enjoy and you're thirsty and you take from the faucet, from the well, wherever you take your water from, that's not a min klala, and you can say a bracha for it. The halacha leMoshe, he says we have a mistake in our version of the Yerushalmi. Don't read it min klala, min klila, which means it's a lower degree type of food, and that's why you don't use it for an eruv. But back to our girsa, which appears in our Yerushalmis, min klala. What are we going to do with the first rain that falls in Sukkot? What do Chazal say about the first rain? The rain that falls on the first day of Sukkot, at least the first day. What is it called? Siman klala. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm not interested in your service. Like a mashal Chazal bring, the Eved comes, the slave comes to the master, and he wants to give him soup, and the man says, no thank you, and he takes the soup and he throws it on his head. That's a min klala. So that rain, from the first night of Sukkot, you collect it and you want to drink. Should you say a bracha for that? Rabbi Yehuda says it's a min klala. So maybe b'derech we should say that's a simin klala. It's not klala. So even with Rabbi Yehuda it can work. It's not a water of klala. It's a simin of klala. No, for simanim you can still say a bracha. But based on all this, we just gained a new idea, perhaps, why you say lechayim dafka when you drink wine. Since Noach saw the lethal, devastating power of water, he went and he invented wine. Why? So this beverage should be for life. So we continue Noach's path, and we say, when we drink, this beverage, in fact, should be for life. Parshas Noach, we find Nimrod. V'kush yalad es Nimrod, hu echel liot gibor ba'aretz. Hu היה gibor tzayid lifnei Hashem. And therefore, it is said, al ken yamer, ke Nimrod gibor tzayid lifnei Hashem. What was Nimrod's end? How does he leave the world? Let's see how he took care of it. In Parsha Toldos, Rivka takes big day Esav, Bena Hagodol, and they are called Hachamudois. And she took them and she put it on Yaakov. Comes Rabbi Ovadia of Bartenura. He has a perush on the Torah called Amar Naka, clean wool. That's the literal understanding. And he brings what Rashi brings, that Esav covered these big day Hachamudos from Nimrod. And he brings a Medish. These were special garments made by HaKadosh Baruch Hu for Adam Rishon and Chava. These are actually the Kotnos oil. And these are a special feature. They had pictures engraved of all the different animals. And if you touch a certain animal, that animal comes to you and does whatever service you want it to do for you. So as long as it was by Nimrod, he was the greatest hunter. Why was he such a great hunter? Because he called any animal that he wanted, and the animal came. He said, listen, do this for me, do this for me. And he would hunt for him, and Lemaisa, that's why he's called the great hunter. Esav saw this unbelievable garment and says, Nimrod, can you do me a favor? Can I borrow this? No, just for a day. He said, sure, no problem. As soon as Esav took him, he pressed on the lion picture. The lion came, and Esav says, take care of this guy. And he devoured Nimrod. That was the end of Nimrod. It comes out that Nimrod was the greatest hunter. He always used to hunt lions and everything else. Comes the lion whom he used to hunt, and now he hunted him and devoured him, and that was the end of Nimrod, and that is the end of our Shir. Should all have in Mitzvah Hashem a wonderful Shabbos and a great, great, great month. Not just one great month, many, many great months in Mitzvah Hashem. A great, great, great year stored ahead of us. A year of Yeshua, a year of Geula in Mitzvah Hashem.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.